What's up, friends? Today we're going to learn how to fix our side nav to our course lessons pages within Squarespace. So by default, when you create a new course in Squarespace, the side nav is over here and a user has to come over here and click it. And this is nice, this functionality is great, but it's a little hidden. And so today we're going to learn how to show it, have it here visible all the time on desktop. There's going to be two parts to this video. The first part, we're just going to copy and paste the code over and get it working. So if you don't want to fiddle with code, if you don't like code, you can just get this up and running really quick. Part two is what I'm going to call a curious corner. So if you're curious to learn more about code, I'm going to walk through kind of line by line what this code is doing. So step one, let's just get this working though on your website for anyone who doesn't want to fiddle with this stuff. So just look for my fixed courses side nav article on my website. This will be totally free. I'll link to it down below as well. And there's two options. So you can either have your side nav fixed on the left side or fixed on the right side. Very simple, very clear. So I'm going to choose left side. So I'm going to copy this right here. And let's go back to our website. And I need to paste this into our custom CSS area. Now, if you've never been there, let's just go all the way back. Right now, it is deep hidden inside our website tab, but you can also just hit this search bar and say custom CSS, and that'll bring you right to it. So I'm going to paste that code that I copied in right here. And now there's two things that I need to change. One, this collection ID with the hashtag in front of it. And two, this collection ID with the dot in front of it. Now this collection ID is going to connect to the courses, your entire course collection that is within Squarespace. So the way we can find that is go to, let's hit save. You can either hit the your course title and that'll bring you to the collection page, or we can go to our pages area and just click on your course. Just click on your course and it'll bring you to this main dashboard with all your lessons and chapters in here. Now, we need to get the collection ID. So the way we do this, the way I'm going to do this is I've got this tool right here called the collection ID, the Squarespace ID Finder, and this is our collection ID. Now, if you don't have this, you can go to the Chrome Web Store and just type in Squarespace ID Finder. And it's probably going to be this first one that pops up. And you can add this, it's totally free. You can add this to your Chrome browser, and it's very easy to find these little coding things within Squarespace that you need to target the specific elements. So I've turned this on, and this is the collection ID that I need. So let's go back to our custom CSS area. Down here, it's in website tools and custom CSS. Let's turn that collection ID back on. And this collection ID, it should start with collection dash. If you're in a lesson, it'll start with item dash. But I'm going to copy this and I'm going to replace this entire one right there. So including that hashtag, I'm just going to replace that entire thing. And now I'm going to just copy the collection and then this random string of letters and numbers afterwards, but not the hashtag. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to replace this collection ID, everything after that dot. So it should be dot your collection dash some random string of numbers, colon, not, parentheses, hashtag, collection dash some random string of numbers. So that's how this looks. Now let's jump into one of our lessons. And ta-da, now we have our fixed side nav. So that's how this works. Hang tight. If you want to just take this and run, you don't really want to jump into coding, you're good. You're totally fine. But if you want to learn a little bit more about coding, if you're curious, hang tight and I'm going to walk through this code, what it's doing kind of line by line. What's up, friends? Welcome to the Curious Corner, where I'm going to walk you through the logic of this code and why this code actually works and what we're actually targeting and moving around. So if you're curious to learn more about code, I think this video is going to be for you, especially within Squarespace. So this is what I want to do. So here I've just removed all the code we just put in, and we're just going to rebuild that step by step. So here is what I want to do. I want this nav to always be visible, first of all. So I need to figure out why it's sort of moving in and out and just fix it in one place. And then I want all of the content on the page to sort of move over as well. So as I'm first getting started, I just kind of want to play around with one page and just sort of tweak and mess around with some styles. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm in one of my lessons, and then I'm just going to turn on our ID Finder, and let's just apply all of this code just to this one lesson. Whatever we tinker around with, I don't want it affecting other pages on my website, so I'm just going to apply it to just this one page. Now, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to need to look at the HTML. I'm going to need to pull up the web inspector, but I don't really want to open it in my Squarespace backend here, because we're also going to get all the HTML that goes along with the Squarespace website builder, and that just pollutes things. It makes it hard to just sort of parse what's actually happening. So I'm going to open this up in a new window. I'm going to expand into the preview mode, copy this URL, open a new window, paste it in, and then do question mark, then no redirect. And this tells our browser as we open this up, don't redirect me back into the back end. We're just going to stay on the live page here. So this is what I want to do. Now let's take a look at this sidebar nav, this nav, and make sure that let's remove that animation. I want to fix it right here. So let's open up our web inspector, inspect. Let's open this up, and now I'm going to target into this element. Let's make our HTML a little larger here. So you can see we got our HTML over here and our styles of whatever we've targeted. So I'm going to target our nav. And so you can see I'm going to hover around, and it's going to highlight the elements that I'm hovering on. And this is the one. So this is what I want to target and make sure that it's not, it doesn't go back. I want to leave it out like this. So what I can do is I've clicked on this. I can just sort of see what happens in our CSS and the HTML here as I click on things. So something's moving around. So it looks like, as I'm looking at the CSS down here, as I click on this, let's see. So this translate X. So what's happening, it looks like, as we open it up, Squarespace is applying a transform on this sidebar, and it's pushing it in the X direction out. So by default, it looks like there's no transform. It sticks right here. And then when we click it, we move it left X 100%. That 100% is the width of the sidebar. So that's what's happening. So what I need to do is just prevent this from ever working, right? If we just turn that off, it's just going to stay in the middle of the page. Obviously, that's not where we want it, but that's where it's going to stay. So I want to target our course nav item, right? I'm going to copy that class. Let's go back to our website, and within our item right here, I'm just going to paste that class in, and I'm going to say transform unset, and we never want it to transform. I'm just going to say unset important. And now, let's see, as I click on this, nothing is happening. So let's save this and let's look at it on the new page. So there we go. So now we've got something going, and just when I click on this, it looks like the items show up. So that's pretty cool, actually. So we'll work on that next, is like keeping the items there. What I want to do now is I don't want this obviously to cover up the other content on my page. So let's move all the content of the page over a little bit. So what I need to do is look at the entire page. So one thing to note is this has position fixed on it. Position fixed means it's going to sit in front of everything. It will sit in front or behind of everything on your page, but it is fixed to the window. So it just stays here as we scroll. Another thing I'm noticing is that the height of this adjusts. So it looks like there's, we can see as we scroll, this top property maybe changes. Yeah, top. It's not changing in our styles down here, but you can see it changing in the HTML right there. So I want to fix our height and our top property of this element too. So it's always right here. It's always the full height. So let's do that. So on our side nav, top 0, important. And then height 100, viewport height unit. So this is always going to keep the height of our page. And I spelled important wrong above. Important. So let's just save all of those. There we go. So now we're looking a little bit better. Now let's get the content of the page to move in. So since this is position fixed, I can move in the entire page left, I guess, from the right edge, left in as wide as this is. So let's figure out how wide this nav item is, and it looks like Squarespace is setting it to 400 pixels. So what I'm going to do is this class, this ID, is put on our body element. Let's scroll up to our body right here. The ID is on the body, and this is what I want to move over. So I can just show you right here. If we can apply styles right here in the web inspector, I'm going to say margin right 400 pixels. And that has pushed this over as well, but we can adjust that we'll adjust that here in a second. Let's actually fix what we want to do is we want to fix our course item side nav. We want to fix that to the right 0. So there we go. So now it's kind of coming together. Let's apply these styles. So I want to fix our side nav to the right side. So I'm going to say right 0 important. And I'm just throwing important because we kind of want to override anything that Squarespace might add. And then let's margin right of our entire body because that's what this is targeting, right? Margin right, we're going to say 400 pixels. And there we go. Now we're looking pretty good here. I can't scroll on this. Let's refresh the page. I think Squarespace by default, if you click on this, then it prevents scroll. As this is loaded, it will prevent scroll right here. So I can't scroll right now when this is showing. So that's probably the next thing I want to do is if we're fixing this, let's just remove this button entirely. So I'm going to look for that element. I guess it's just this. So what would this be called? Course item side nav toggle button. Okay, so let's just copy that class. And let's throw it in here as well. And I'm just going to say display none because I don't want this button to show. And now let's show the content that is within here. So let's go and let's hover over our content. Let's figure out why this isn't being visible. It looks like there's going to be some opacity. So I'm just going to hover over each item, each element in our HTML and just see, there it is. So that we have an opacity 0 on this. So again, I'm going to copy this class. Let's throw it into our CSS. I'm going to say opacity 1, and let's import that. And there we go. So now we're coming along. This is looking pretty good. Let's refresh over here. Yep, this is looking pretty good. One thing that it looks like we have, so we'll need to work on that. The reason why is this not being under there? But actually this is kind of what I want to do. Our header is probably going to conflict with this as well. I'm just not a fan of the header being on a course lesson page because this is just a lot of navigation going on here. So if you're in a course page, I kind of think it's fine to remove your header altogether. We could target our header and push it over as well. So let's just do that and see what that might look like. Let's target our header element and apply this same thing. We're just going to margin right it and push it over. So again, we could do this. I'm not really a fan just because this is just too much navigation, I think, for my user. So I would rather just say display none on the header. I'm going to totally get rid of that. I feel like this is better for a user when they're in a lesson, is they can just focus in on this lesson. And of course, they can always click courses to go back to, or whatever, this would be the title of your course. They can just click that and they'll go back to that main course page with the header in it. So that's actually what I'm going to do. I'm going to just remove our header right here. Okay, so we're actually looking pretty good. So this is coming along. But obviously we're going to have a problem when let's resize our page, when we go to mobile. Now this is full width. So really we only want this applying on a specific screen size. Now what you could do is just slowly move this and look right here on my screen. You can see the width of the page is adjusting about 1,000 pixels. Now I've already pre-done this, so I'm going to grab the right media queries we want to use. But I only want this style to apply when it's larger than a certain screen size. So what I want this to apply to is when our media is larger, when our screen is larger than 1,000 pixels. Let's do that. And then let's just refresh. So the way I did that, you can just highlight some text and hit Shift Tab and it'll format the text. It's a super handy little key command there. So I'm going to hit save. Now let's refresh over here. And you can see now after 1,000 pixels, we default back to this normal behavior because that kind of makes a little bit more sense on mobile devices. And then you see it turns into this sort of layout as well. So this is probably what we want to be happening. And then next, let's look at this. So right here we have, and also actually one more thing I want to see. Yeah, That's probably good. So Squarespace gets rid of the course header up here. We could leave this as at, I think, 800 pixels right there. We could do a media query around this that only removes our header when the window is larger than 800 pixels. So our header pops back up. So we could do that. So our header pops back up because right now I can't go any higher. Squarespace, I guess, moves around the course nav. So I'm going to do that just because I think that probably works a little bit better. Because this kind of makes, we have a less complex nav here. So I think we could pull the header back there if we want. Okay, so this is looking really good. The last thing I want to do is this video now is really big. So if I hit play on this, Squarespace is assuming an aspect ratio of 9:16. This isn't bad. I mean, this could be fine. This might be what you want. But let's work on removing the height of this, because if we toggle into our video, it is assuming this video is going to be full width. That's the assumption that Squarespace has built into the CSS. But it's not full width anymore. It's full width minus 400 pixels. So that's the problem. That's the reason why we're getting this banding on the top of the video element here. So what I want to do is I'm going to poke around in our CSS area here, or HTML, kind of figure out what is controlling the height of this video element, because it's not 100% of the video. That's right. So I'm just going to keep bouncing around until I see something like this right here. So we have a height. We're fixing the height. And so this is what, again, this is what Squarespace is doing. We have a height that is 9:16, 9 divided by 16, the aspect ratio of the assumed video we've uploaded, multiplied by 100% wide of the viewport, right? So what I want to do is do this exact same calculation, but not 100% wide. We want to do 100% wide in parentheses minus 400 pixels. And there we go. So this is effectively the calculation that I want. So I'm going to target, let's target our video container right here. And that's the CSS I want to target. Let's drop that in, because again, we only want this stuff applying on greater than 1,000 pixels. Let's copy this entire property right here. It's going to copy both, but that's fine. We'll format it over here. So we'll get rid of this max height. And there we go. So now we have this. So let's hit save. I'm not sure if this is going to work for us, but I'm just going to hit save and we're going to refresh. That did work for us. Look. And now if we look at our course item, height, there we go. So this calculation, 168, to be honest, I'm not going to trust that calculation, although it's looking good here. There we go. Yeah, so that's not working well there. And the reason is our custom CSS area, it can't accept these calc functions in like a normal way, because this is actually using some other thing of less. Anyways, if you're going to use a calc function, we have to wrap it in the tilde, which you can hit shift and then the key next to the 1 on your keyboard. So that little tilde thing, let's zoom in here, and then a single quote mark. And then at the end, we're going to do a single quote mark, just a single right before that. And then that is going to tell our CSS, don't do anything fancy, just run this as normal CSS, because our CSS area wants to do some fancy stuff and we just want to say, hey, don't do that, don't do that. So now let's refresh. Now let's look at it. So now we're keeping that 9:16 aspect ratio. One other part of this that I have in my code that I have not talked about here is set a bottom property on this. That's probably good practice. Just because we want it to go from the top of the page to the bottom. I mean, we're saying top and 100 VH, so that's kind of what's going to happen anyway. And lastly, we just need to make sure this is going to apply to everything. Now this is looking good. We need to make sure that this is going to work on every single page in our course here. So what I'm going to do is go back to our course collection page right here. And here's a cool little tidbit about collections within Squarespace. So if you're on the collection page, so for my course, it's this course overview page. For a store or something, it's the products page that lists all the products. If it's a blog, it's that blog page that lists all your blogs. That's the collection page. If you're on there and you turn on your Squarespace ID Finder, you'll get a collection ID. Now, if you're in any of the items, you'll get this item of the collection, but the collection has this collection ID. Now, the collection page and all of its associated items have this exact same collection ID on it, except it's a class. And so let me show you what I mean. Let's copy this ID. Let's replace this here. It's going to mutate this page a little bit because it's applying to this page, but I don't want the ID. I'm going to change this from an ID to a class. Now again, this is still applying to this page. That's not necessarily what we want, but if we go into now any of the items, this code is going to be applying. Every single item within a collection has this class on its body. So that's pretty cool. So now we have applied this to every item in our collection, but we don't want this to apply to our course collection page, the actual collection page, only the items within it. So we can do a not selector. So apply it to every single item within the collection, but not the actual collection ID, not an item that has this as the ID. So now this is not applying to this page, but it is applying to these pages because these pages don't have the ID. They only have the class. So this, again, this works on any collection type within Squarespace. And this is great. And one other final little tweak that we will want to do with this selector is when we go into edit mode, we don't really want this to look like this in edit mode. We want to just remove all of this code if we are editing. So I can say not if we're on that page, or if the body has SQS edit mode active. So this is basically saying not if we're editing the page either. So let's hit save, let's hit edit, and it doesn't look like this applied. So let's refresh the page once, and there we go. Now when we hit edit, it doesn't work on any of these pages. So this is great. Now we can edit these pages just how we might want to normally. All right. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video, learned a little something. If you're curious to learn more about code, especially within Squarespace, I have a membership that's just for you. It's called the Code Curious membership. And even if you don't really care to learn too much more about code, but you want a bunch of other resources for your Squarespace web design business, or just your own Squarespace website, check out my website, look at the Code Curious membership. I have a code catalog that has over 100 code little snippets and little bits of stuff that you can do, customizations that you can add to your Squarespace website. And I have the targeting library that has just tons of different targets like this throughout your Squarespace website. So check that out over on my site. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time.